Hello and welcome to the Creator Spotlight. We have a few fabulous humans with us tonight, and I thought I would just kind of start out with letting them introduce themselves and just give a little bit of a background of a bio on who you are and where people can find you. And then we'll kind of dive into it. And I'll just go ahead and call out Kate first.
Oh my goodness. Hi, I am Kate. I go by Katethegreatcosplays online, and I'm also the owner and producer for Don't Kill My Character. So that's where I stream TTRPGs, and you can find me online both those places, Kate the Great Cosplays and Don't Kill My Character, and in person at a ton of conventions where I host lots of cosplay meetups and fan events. Thanks for being here. Hi, everyone.
Thanks for being with us. And I'm going to throw it over to Adrian.
Hi. Sorry, I had to read my own card for descriptors. I am
Hey, that's
a
okay.
writer sometimes, hype man all the time, and just general goof, to be honest. I host a podcast called Dungeons&Degrees, and we talk TTRPGs, but it just divulges into whatever life is throwing at us at the time. So, like, we just talk to cool people and shoot the shit. Oh, can I curse here? What's the
Oh, hell yeah,
vibe?
you can.
Oh fudge, yeah. I'm still gonna censor that.
It's all good.
But yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, GM.
Yeah,
I'm forever GM.
forever GM. I'm just
Mhm.
jumping into the GM land. So,
Oh, what an adventure you're on.
yeah, that is so true. We talked a little bit in the beginning. We all have a awareness and an awareness and an appreciation for the importance of mental health
Hmm.
and how that plays into gaming and TTRPGs in general. So I thought I'd kind of like kick us off in the hard stuff first, and then we'll jump into a little bit about what you've got coming up and what's going on in your world. But in terms of like just that gift, I guess, that play gives to us
Hmm.
and why we do it. Anybody want to add a few,
I mean,
two
I
cents
love
on
that you
there?
threw in the piece about how important play is. My tagline for Kate the Great Cosplays is we never grow out of our need to play. The second part of that isn't on the business cards and the emails, but I often share is, but we certainly grow out of opportunities too. So I think that TTRPGs and cosplay and Renaissance fairs and Comic Cons and conventions and all these wonderful things give us such an important outlet for play that we need at all ages and stages of our life. And I think that's why we're seeing such a popularity for these things now, is because more and more people are realizing we need to play, we want to play, let's play. And so I've loved just seeing the TTRPG space and cosplay space and all these areas flourish with new community members in recent years from that realization, recognition, and acceptance of play. So important. Myself, I was a teacher for 4 years. That's what my degrees are in. And I feel like something that really drew me to teaching, especially for elementary school teaching, was because I wanted to play. I wanted to be a theater teacher too, so that I could play pretend, because kids get to play pretend and you get to play in theater. It's why it's called plays. And then realizing as I stepped away from teaching that I could still play as an adult because other adults also wanted to play with me. I think that's just been so joyful. So I love that you threw that piece in there.
Yeah, I love that you talked about, it's called plays. But as humans, as we get older, we stop doing that. People tell us that we shouldn't be playing, and then life gets really heavy. Adrian,
And
you
I mean,
bring a
going
lot of
back
that
to
into. Oh, I was going to go ahead.
Yeah, well, just going back to that comparison between like theater and TTRPGs, like it's playing, it's storytelling, and that's also just such an inherent human need is to tell stories together. So that's something that the theater space hits, which is also where my degree is, and where TTRPGs hit is that collaborative storytelling piece. So there is a ton of overlap, and I often look at TTRPG cosplay and TTRPG players and cosplayers, and I say to them, like, if you weren't a theater kid, how did you end up here? Like, I'm so glad you're here, but the pipeline from theater kid to, this world makes so much sense to me because that was also my track for it. And I'm just so genuinely curious how people found it if that wasn't their progression.
Non-theater kid over here.
Tell me
Uh,
all about it.
Oh, there was like one opportunity, and then I moved schools, and then they just didn't have a theater department that I knew somebody in, and I was like, I don't know if I can break into that space. Like I'm like I was already a nerd already, so like I knew that I was already into D&D before that, but
That's great.
um, oh yeah,
How old were you when you like got into D&D?
oh, um, early age of 7. My dad used to play
Wow.
it, and he immediately killed all our characters with like a swarm of rats. And I didn't play
What?
until college.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so my channel is called Don't Kill My Character. So if you want to come on and have your character loved and coddled, and we're just going to tell your character's full story, you come on over.
Yes.
Um, that is so fun and also tragic to me. Do you know
Yeah, oh
what
for
version
sure.
you were playing? Because I
Uh,
started like 3.5 my freshman year of college. Fifth edition
I
was out,
still
but
have
people
the
didn't trust it
box in a
yet.
closet somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
And I
how
think it
cool.
has like the pre-gen character already there, so I have to go look for it. But it was one of the earliest.
Post it to
It might have been
social.
before 3.5.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Post it to social media later.
Okay, we'll do.
Tag me.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll
And
do.
the
We'll do.
podcast is you chatting and telling stories and playing.
Mm-hmm. It's fun. I don't know. It was like a need for connection for during the pandemic because this isolation was like I was already in a field of social I was a social worker. So like I knew the importance of
Mm.
connection, and I knew I needed to kind of like reach out to people because I was getting lonely. I had moved like 4 hours west from my hometown and middle of nowhere Texas. So like I'm like, okay, hey Alex, my co-host, do you want to just talk to our friends about D&D? And she was like, well, I was kind of interested in it. So I don't know anything about it. I'm like, that's fine. We just need to get some people, and I trust you. Um, and that was 4 years ago, and now we talk like it was just a leap of faith, and now we talk at conventions about all this cool stuff about doing the dang thing, and having confidence.
Well,
I
and I
want to know
love
what
that.
conventions you're going to.
Hmm.
I love that you were just like, we'll figure it out, basically.
You
Just jump in.
to be honest, it's weird. Like m- mine and Alex's relationship during like when I was a student, um, and her being the academic advisor, it was like this was someone not so many years above me, and Alex will protest about that, calling herself old, or me's baby, one of the two. But it's like I needed someone that was like a cool like senior to me, and like someone that's a little bit has their shit a little bit more put together than myself, and that was my person for a second. So I'm like, and then I got out of college, and I'm like, I kind of want that person in my life still. But it was good. It was
I'm gonna
good.
I'm gonna give you a little hint. We still don't have our shit together.
uh, in the comments, Alex is saying I'm so old. But
Alex, you're gonna have to come on. We'll do a whole nother show. Kate, you were mentioning conventions.
Yeah, I want to know what conventions Adrian's at. Um, I'm next up New York Comic Con and PAX Unplugged, which are like two of my, if not my top two, like favorite
mhm.
conventions ever of the whole year. So I am very excited for those. Gen Con was a lot of fun this year too. It was my first time going, and I did really like being able to connect with so many mutuals, especially from the TTRPG
Oh
space in
yeah.
person for the first time. That was that was very cool as well. Um, but yeah, are you near Comic Con or PAX Unplugged, or what are some of the conventions that you frequent?
Um, this this year is or this year's our first year of like going to other conventions. We went to a convention that Alex actually started in Lubbock or helped create, so LubbockCon. And then this year we went again, and then we went to Fan Expo Dallas, and then we went to Gen Con, and and then we were signed up for PAX U. We were just waiting on an email, so we'll be around there talking. Um, yeah, that's what we've done. We were gonna try other cons, but like time and money, and we got like our jobs to only give us so much time off. So
Yeah,
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 it
that's what
is.
I'm
that's
It's
the
looking forward to.
dilemma, right? We all just
Yes,
want
it's a
to
huge commitment.
play.
Yeah,
yeah, and play is like something you can do when you feel like vulnerable with others, like coming into like a room just for play, just like a almost like game shop or something. Like sometimes that can still be intimidating because you don't feel safe
Oh
yet,
yeah.
you don't know what to expect, you're the new person there. But once you start talking and communicating and having that vulnerability to play, you start to feel yourself, let go of that social, like I have to do this and this in order to talk to this person properly. And then when you're in play, it's like I just got to follow the rules of the game. Social things be damned.
Yeah. It's
and what a
that
perfect time
trust.
for yeah.
Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say,
Go
what a
ahead,
perfect
Kate.
time for Curly and Sane Guy to pop into the chat too, because I have jumped into groups that like don't really work and you don't really ever hit that perfect comfort level, and that's fine. Like not all people are going to click like that,
Hmm.
but Shannon and I jumped into a group that Curly and Sane Guy ran of mutants and masterminds, and
Nice.
what a click. Like not click like clicky, at the cafeteria table. Like it clicked, and it was just a great group of people at a great time. And now we're taking that two shot and making it a full series on my channel. So yeah, like there is something, and I find that people who have existed, some like it can go either ways. Either people who are coming into the TTRPG space brand new, don't know what to expect, can be less
Hmm.
guarded. I find usually they're a lot more creative with their choices because they're not so bogged down by like mechanically how the game works and what can and can't be done within the system.
Oh yeah.
um but then like when you have people who are used to playing TTRPGs and understand the way that the story is shared and told collaboratively, that's like its own kind of magic, um, where you can really be sharing that spotlight and giving each other those moments. And that's just really great. Um, Sometimes you really do just luck out, quoting Curly in the chat.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
yeah, and it is, like I said, I've been in a lot of groups, and some of them really do just have that magic to them. And I think that that magic is so special to the shared storytelling and role playing space.
Oh yeah.
I liken it to the playground. So when you were in kindergarten and you just
Yes.
ran out in the playground and saw somebody that was like in the sandbox and that's where you
Hmm.
wanted to be. So you grab out your Star Wars figures and you start, playing in the sandbox or
Putting them into the
you're
Sarlacc
not.
pit.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're not thinking about all the things you're not supposed to do.
Hmm.
You're just thinking about this looks fun. I want to go do that. And so
Yeah.
you jump in and you go do it. But it is really intimidating as an adult going into those spaces because the world around you has done all of these other things to make you a little guarded.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And so you
I
kind
mean,
of have to walk in and let that go and trust a little bit. And
that
really,
goes
when we're
back to
talking
like,
about that collaborative storytelling, that's what it's all about
Oh
is
yeah.
having trust with each other to be able to let all that go and just be silly.
yeah, oh, that silliness is so important. And that goes back to the quote earlier, like, we never grow never grow out of our need to play, but we certainly grow out of opportunities to. And that lost opportunities is a lot of people just making us believe, oh no, you can't play anymore. So like I one of the biggest things for me, like one of the biggest compliments I can get when I host um events at conventions is having people tell me that they felt welcome, that they felt safe and able to be their full geeky, nerdy, fandom loving selves in an unguarded way. And Adrian, you're speaking too to doing panels at conventions, and we spoke in our little pre-show chatter about
Hmm.
how you bring people into the space. So, I mean, I'd love to hear that from you too, like how you build that environment for people to feel safe and welcome when like so many of those guards are built up, especially with adults.
I think for like bringing people into the space, my experience was me in college not having enough people to play, so I just was at work trying my best to convert. Because like, hey, have you heard of the Great Book of D&D? And it was just mainly individuals my age. Now that I've grown older, I moved away from college. Um, it's become a little bit more the social stuff to convert someone is a little bit bigger of a hill, but like once you kind of tell them you can do X, Y, and Z, and they're like, okay, and then they get into it and they start to feel the joy, the play, the pretend that has probably always been in their mind, but nothing that they've never had a space to express it. That's where it kind of flows, in my opinion. Um, it's been tough, but I've been able to find some nice people online, either through different Discord servers or, the forums on. Um, I've done Roll20, I've done Reddit. I've had like, luck here and there. There's some people out there that aren't the fit for your table, so you gotta
Right.
kind of like, hey, it ain't working, we gotta keep going. Was nice having you for a session and move on because we don't want enough time to go through that. But yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I
I
I mean, coming from like the background of being a theater teacher, that's something that is like in improv classes with kids or adults, one of the first things you do is those really silly, ridiculous exercises and games, like where you're saying nonsense words and you're doing really silly zip
yeah.
zap zop. And they are so important because they like the purpose of those games is to lower those like boundaries and rules and inhibitions and let you be everyone is being zany and silly together all at once in a quick way where you don't even have time to think, oh, this isn't right. I'm not supposed to do this. You make it quick, you make it silly, you make it fun, and you break down those guards. But,
Mhm.
we're not usually playing zip, zap, zop when we're inviting people into Dungeons and Dragons and TTRPGs. Which
We don't
I
gotta
mean, I
die. We gotta kill this dragon.
so yeah, like and I think that something too that makes me feel more secure when I'm entering new groups is having the like TTRPG consent lists that I use a lot on my channel as well. But yeah, it's really like vibe checks. Like I've gone into session zeros, um and people will call their session zeros basically just vibe checks to just be like,
Yeah.
let's hang out together and let's just kind of talk and see like how just get comfortable with each other, get comfortable with these people in this space.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's fun. We're here to have fun.
Exactly.
There's
For
we
enough in
are
this
here
sure.
to
world
have
that's
fun.
not fun.
Oh yeah. Ah, yeah.
but also but also like the interesting part of TTRPGs though and role playing is the moments that are not fun for my characters are so for me. And maybe that comes from my acting background where I love playing out those like very dramatic moments, but I
Hmm.
love bad scenes. I love the angry scenes. I love like the big dramatic, oh my gosh, this is like the worst thing to ever happen to my character. And this is my favorite moment in the whole story. Like the not fun is fun role playing where it's not fun IRL.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I want to pause for just a second and just honor what's in the chat right now because there's some really great comments in here. Uh, Adrian is really good at treating people like people. He learns from everyone, which is beautiful. And Curly
Wow.
is going right
Picking me
out
up
to create
always.
3 NPCs named Zip, Zap, and Zop, which is beautiful.
I love this.
Yeah, and also noted that as a GM, it's important to make a table where new or new to you players can just try. And I think that's where that trust lies,
Oh yeah.
right? Just being able to be silly. And I'm going to just throw out this that nat ones are the best part of the game
I
because that
concur.
gives you those opportunities.
It shows an arc of growth or something that your character doesn't do. It brings out their insecurities that you can start creating storylines with in order to push the narrative forward. Too many times I've seen people just like roll 20 after 20 after 20. And it's like, that's cool, but like, how does it make the team feel? How does it show like who are you? And what happens when you fail? Are you going to be able to kind of like, how does that the like the break in the armor kind of thing? What does that say about your character after that point?
Yeah.
Alex
Well, it's
breaking my
life.
heart in the chat.
The chat. I
Yeah,
love the
well,
chat.
but also to that point of there being like too many like 20s sometimes. I mean, this is where I go into my place of like I am enjoying games that don't involve a ton of dice rolling. I'm enjoying just writing
Hmm.
stories like collaborative. I came from the background of like play by post like role playing in chat forums. Um and we didn't have dice. We didn't have any like mechanic system. We just had an understanding of how characters could work together in the world. And every now and then someone would come in with something that was overpowered, and we'd say like, "Hey, this doesn't really work," and try to work with them to make something that fit. But, you don't need dice and mechanics to tell the story. Like, that's still some of my favorite way of storytelling. And that's also how we told stories as kids. Like, when we're playing pretend as kids, we don't have dice, we don't have numbers, we don't have mechanics. We're just, and I do this, and I do this, and
Hmm. Hmm.
collaborating. And I did that so often as a kid, and that's still the base of my favorite storytelling. I love doing, like, I'm hopefully trying to write like a trilogy novel series collaboratively with someone else. Um, I think that the dice don't always know the best story, and we do. Like, we know where the successes can be. We also know where the failures can be. So I've loved recently stepping away from TTRPGs that rely on dice mechanics and ones that more go towards like collaborative group storytelling and really low on mechanics, and just back to that, we're kids playing pretend. We don't need a mechanic system to do it. Um, I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah,
But
I'm
also, like, I'm
fairly
an improv
new.
actor too.
I'm fairly new to the TTRPG space in
Hmm.
general. And since October, that's when I started streaming. Since October, it's kind of been like this natural challenge for me to play as many different types of systems as possible, just to really kind of challenge that. And in every one of them, really the only things that matter are the character that you're creating and the story that you're telling together. Everything else you can mod and do whatever you need to do.
Hmm.
But that dynamic of creating something from nothing and doing it together, trusting each other and challenging each other, I think it's just really powerful.
Yeah.
Utilizing that opportunity to kind of work through some of the stuff that you're going through in life in a character and
Hmm.
being in that space where you can do that together. Kate's in charge of the Fae, or you're the Fae in charge of the
Oh,
space.
in charge of the theater camp. We're building out a theater camp that is like a trap, but I want to be in the camp too much, so I'm not allowed in. Um, I think Curly and Alex are building this in the chat right now. But actually, that would
Oh,
actually
that's
be very smart
fantastic.
if my character couldn't get in, because then the other characters be trapped inside and my character be trying so hard to get in, and that's how I would
Yeah.
save them. So good story right
And this
there.
is it right now, right? This is what we're doing.
Well, I also like what you were saying about if I heard correctly, like it was making me think of just the amount of ourselves that we put in the characters, right? Like I have no idea who this
Yeah.
character is, but I love theater and I want to go to a theater camp. So now this character that I'm putting into this scenario is a theater camp kid. And I think so much of myself really does end up in my characters. And it's interesting to see which characters have which parts of me.
Mhm.
And like to what extent. Like sometimes I'll dial up some parts of myself and dial down others. And I've also learned a lot about myself in playing different characters. Like there were things that I was able to explore as Maeve the half elf warlock, and then I was able to be like, oh, that's actually really true for Kate too. And now that I've tried that as Maeve, I want to explore that as Kate. And I
Yeah.
actually spoke to that a lot at a panel that I was on at FlameCon in New York. It was organized by the Storyteller Squad podcast team, really wonderful team, and it was about exploring queer identity in TTRPGs. And that is how I found out that I was queer, was playing TTRPGs like that with that character Maeve. And something we talked about too was character bleed, and how if
Yes.
it's not something like how it can be really helpful, and it can teach you a lot about yourself as long as it's handled in a healthy way, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
don't make your DM your therapist.
Right.
Make sure
Right.
that you and if you're the dungeon master, the dungeon master and the players are all communicating really well, which is why I think it's really important to have conversation after each session or in between
Yeah.
sessions, like about how did that go, and just touching base constantly, just be like beyond that session zero. Um, but yeah, like there's been a lot of self discovery for me, and realizing parts of myself that were bigger parts than I thought they were, because they became such big parts of my character. Um, so I really love the power of TTRPGs to like in playing other characters and exploring other characters, we get to explore ourselves, which is
Oh
also
yeah.
something my theater background as well. It rings so true. Um, that whole like walk a mile in someone else's shoes, walk a campaign, fight a dragon in someone else's shoes, walk a dungeon in someone else's shoes. There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so powerful.
Yeah. As a social worker,
Mm.
I'm sure you can find like that balance between how valuable it can be.
It's essentially like a practice round to like being able to confidently say it about something else. Like not everything you
Yeah.
do is like, man, I want to participate in killing things, you know? Like not everything's one to one when you start playing these things, but it's like, hey, I want to be, playing as non-binary, playing as other, I guess genders, and it's sometimes you kind of realize like this feels comfortable. Well, like why does this feel comfortable? Then you start talking and thinking in your mind like, oh no, I'm changing. I hate change, which is always a scary thing. Um, so yeah, I can see that as well as like the character buy-in. It feels more important. I mean, you've invested time, you've invested thought, you've invested, you know, some sort of bleed into your character because it feels right, feels good, and you've pretended to be this person. Like when people like you're like having emotions about these pretend characters, I'm like, we have emotions when we
Hmm.
watch television. We have emotions when we watch movies. These aren't real people. These are pretend characters too. It's just a different type of emotional kind of buy-in, especially since this isn't a 2 to 3 hour film. This is like hours upon hours of you pretending to be this person.
And I
And
And
think
that's just
yeah.
creating the character.
and
Yeah, exactly.
and you are pretending to be it. I have to jump in with one of my favorite
Go ahead,
facts
go
now,
ahead.
which I also shared on
Yeah.
the FlameCon panel. So when you think about like really epic or memorable moments from TTRPG games that you've played, like remember that. Go into that memory.
Mhm.
Are you thinking of it as yourself sitting at a table playing the game, or are you thinking about it from the
No.
character's point of view? You're thinking about it like the character, most people think about it like the
Hmm.
character experiencing it with the awareness that you were sitting at a table playing with your friends, but the memory is of the characters, like as the characters.
Yeah.
Our memories of these TTRPG games are coded in our mind the exact same way as our real life memories. Our brains cannot tell the difference. So emotionally, we also can't tell the difference. Like I have had a hard time sleeping at night because I'm thinking about my characters. And I
Hmm.
think that laugh tells me that you're also there with me too. Like we get
Yeah,
so
of
yeah, like
course.
our brains do not know the difference between our own like life emotional investment and the emotional investment of these characters because we're living it out, we're acting it out, we're playing it out. And I just think that's so cool.
Hmm.
I just think
The
it's
brain
neat.
is wild. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not like there's like someone else like why we would have a D&D memory specific, like people who don't have a D&D memory like cabinet in their head. It's just empty, just sitting there. Of course they just all go into the memory file.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and when I play, I become the character. Like
Yeah.
it is an acting situation for me. It's not like sitting at the table and talking out, okay, I want to go over here and do this, and I want to go here and then do that. I become the character that I'm playing. And I think
Hmm.
that different people do it different ways. So if you're one of those people who take on that persona,
Right.
that's a whole nother level, I think, of attachment to that.
Yeah, and
I don't
that's
know. Maybe it's just me.
also, well, that's also a safety
No, no, no.
conversation that, for some scenes you're using like I um pronouns, and for some you're using like, my character, he, she, they, for that
Hmm.
separation. And that's something that like we also talked about on this panel in the bleed conversation about like just being clear about when you're being like I do this versus my character does this,
Hmm.
because it can help the immersion, but also sometimes you need to step back.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean,
Yes.
I joke that I can make my character sheet. I can write my character's backstory. I don't really know who they are and what they sound like until they start talking. And they'll come out with like voices and personalities that I did not expect. And Shannon knows, and Curly in the chat knows, like the character that I built for our superhero shenanigans show on paper was so charismatic. And then she starts talking, and she's like a ball of anxiety, and she can't really talk to anyone, and it's so fun. And like it's happened before where like I've played a character for months, then I go back and read their backstory, and I'm like, oh, they sound so different in this versus when I started talking at the table. So it really is like the character lets me know who they are when I start playing them. I
Mm.
can build their
Yeah.
backstory, but their personality, they let me know when they're ready.
Well, and I think that goes back to the artist scenario. So we were talking at the beginning before we started about that whole confidence in getting started in something. And I think that holds true for anything that is being created from nothing. So whether you're a writer, you're an artist, you're an actor,
Hmm.
any of those scenarios, you have to kind of let go a little bit while at the same time feeling good about letting go, right? Like
Yeah,
you
I
have to
mean, I
step
think
into that power, but also kind of release to allow whatever to flow.
Hmm.
I know this is a ton of my neurosparkliness talking, but also just starting is the hardest part of any project for me. Like getting started, because starting from nothing is terrifying. Like for
Oh
me,
yeah.
I think about all the things that I haven't done yet, and it's like, oh my gosh, I haven't done any of these things yet. I can't do anything at all. And you just have to get over that and start. And once I've started a project, then it's easier to keep going with it and you build the momentum. But you have momentum. Like going
Hmm.
from nothing to starting is intimidating. So, for me, it's like I tell people just start with whatever it is that interests you or wherever the opportunity is. Um, like if you're talking about cosplay, there's so much to do with cosplay. There's so many different skills and the designing and the characters, and then are you making videos, you doing photos, and it's like whatever piece of that is most interesting to you, just do like the quickest, cheapest, easiest version of the rest so you can focus on that one piece
Hmm.
and then build from there into what else catches that interest. Very neurosparkly of me, I know. um, but yeah, I mean, I know like Adrian, this is something that like you specialize in, is like helping people get started in these spaces.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough when you first start out, and you've been talking about the like just starting is like the hardest part. Yeah, and then also like doing the next hurdle of where you've mentally placed in front of you. Like for me, it was like asking other creators that I felt like were out of my depth to just like to come on my show, my rinky-dink show. I'm like, please, can you a scrap of interview, please? Um, and some people just didn't respond, and that's fine. And then some people said no, and then some people said yes. But if I didn't attempt at all, where would I be? I wouldn't have some great interview or and interviews. I wouldn't have people that I respect to jump on and talk, and then I'm like, this is crazy. What am I even doing this? Is this even my podcast? Like, it's tough. And then when I go out there, I'm like, hey, when I started this, it was just like me, Alex, whole bunch of friends, and that's it. Um, and then now it's like there's so many people within the community that have been so great and talking and friendly, and we're just very inspiring people, that it feels like and they have the same feelings. Even though they've been here either longer or shorter time than me, they still have those feelings of like, what am I doing here? It's not just a you thing in your head. There are other creators out there that have the same feeling, and when you kind of understand that, and that you understand that you're in this together and it's not you versus everybody else, it's you and the people you surround yourself with and the people you're willing to collaborate with at your level, that makes it so fun and makes it so more important. That's the good stuff. Grab that
Yeah,
and keep creating, because they will inspire you and you will inspire them, and it just keeps going.
That is
that's the
so well
secret
said.
sauce.
Mwah.
Yep.
That is
That's
very
my
well
favorite
said.
part of that collaborative storytelling, because you're
Hmm.
just doing that back and forth of sharing and supporting each other, being in that space. And that's imposter syndrome is
Oh,
legit.
oh yeah.
Hmm.
It holds everybody down. But this space, especially, I think, is very supportive. It's very easy to jump in and feel connected. And we talked about, we saw that in the chat a little bit too, about that sense of connection and how important that is. It's really easy, I think, to do it in that space. So if you see
Oh yeah.
anybody online and you're wanting to get in, but you don't know how, ask. Just jump in, ask those
Yeah.
questions.
And
I
even
want
if you
to,
get that, like, oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Even if you get that no, you want to be able to surround yourself with people who are enthusiastically saying yes to you. So, like, if they say no, that wasn't the person for you, and that's okay. There are so many people out there.
And it also just might
Absolutely.
like, that
Hmm.
could be the person at a different time. Like if it's someone that, they might come back to you and be like, hey, now's a good time, or you can circle back to them too. Like, but yeah, I think that's so important, is just don't take the no's too harshly. And also, if you don't ask the question at all, then you definitely won't get any of the yeses.
Absolutely. You got to put yourself out there. So let's take this time. We only have about 10 minutes left. So I want to go ahead and switch a little bit and dive into some of those specific things. Like Kate, you mentioned cosplay. Do you want to
I
give people
mentioned
a little bit of,
hanging out with that, I guess.
yeah,
I
you
do
want
it
to mention
sometimes.
a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's been such a cool way for me to explore storytelling and really exist so vibrantly in these TTRPG spaces too, because I love cosplaying my own TTRPG characters and other people's characters and my original characters that exist outside of the TTRPGs. And I think that that's just like I was saying before, how important play is. I mean, it's in the word cosplay. Like, play is in there. It's another way for us to play, and it's another way for us to connect with each other. I mean, that immediate connection that I experience at conventions where I'm wearing something from the same show that someone else is, and we can just be immediate automatic friends. And that happens at like events I host too. I'll host cosplay meetups and fan meetups centered around one genre, one property. And it's always so fun for me to see people who will walk in small groups or by themselves and always leave in like bigger groups with other people with brand new friends. So I actually really love when these events are earlier in the week too or earlier in the day, because then for the rest of the weekend we see each other around the con. We're waving, we're saying hi, we're checking in, we're in these friend groups. Like, it's just kind of that automatic friend, like back to what you were saying about the kids sandbox. They're sitting in the same place you want to be, and it's that, but also like just so identifiable. Oh, they also love this thing that I love, and we have that in common, and that just starts the friendship there.
Mhm.
um and yeah, I think that it's just been such a fun community for me to be part of too. I've never done any of the competition pieces, um but so like I haven't seen that side of it.
Mhm.
But just from the meetup side, where it's like we're here together, we're taking photos together, we're making silly videos together, we're having fun together, there's just so much joy in that. So I love existing in
Yeah.
these spaces.
Celebrating each
And also
other
getting to
and
cosplay. Yeah, I mean, cosplaying my own characters, like bringing them to life even more than, like when we're role playing them. Like sometimes I would be in the character costume while playing the TTRPG game as them, and that was kind of wild. But,
mhm,
like actors too, I, for myself and when I'm directing other actors, there's such a difference in the way that you're acting when the actors are in costume versus not. And it really does just, it changes the vibe and the way you carry yourself, the clothes that you're wearing.
yeah.
So I really love it, and it just adds to that immersion and that fun and that play and that community.
I've just started getting into it. I mean, I guess I've been doing it to a certain degree,
Mhm.
but just not to the I'm going to create a whole character and really dig into it. And I think it's important to note that if somebody is looking to get into it, it can be a simple thing at first.
Yeah.
Just jump, do the one thing. Do you have a favorite character?
Oh my goodness. Like, you're gonna have to narrow that down.
All
Like,
right, well, you think
fa-
on that.
favorite character to cosplay from like my own like OCs or I,
Think on it. I'm going to
oh my gosh, I'll think on
throw it
it.
to Adrian for a minute.
Yeah.
And I want to hear a little bit more about Dungeons and Degrees podcast
Oh,
and what you've got
yeah.
going on over there.
Yeah, Dungeons Degrees podcast is essentially we kind of talk with a bunch of TTRPG creators, indie creators, things of that sort, um, and we kind of sometimes we promote people's new games or what they're working on, and other times we just talk about their experience, their unique experience within this realm, and that can easily go into other subject matters within the space, and it's just me and Alex, and we have fun. We shoot the shit. We usually like time again. It's like we want them back, but we also want to talk to all these other people that we've met since Gen Con. And it's like, how do I have the time to produce all this and then send it out? Like that's why I don't do the social media well. It's because I'm always trying to edit and send out and schedule and things like that.
I have
Whoosh.
to keep telling myself that like any content is better than no content, because I also get stuck in like it's not perfect. I need to keep editing it until it's absolutely perfect, and this little millisecond isn't the way I want it to be, and then it just never gets posted. The amount of
Yeah.
drafts that I have between CapCut and like all the social apps, it's
Hmm.
embarrassing. I have well over 50 drafts of things that just never posted.
I've had to reset my account. I've lost a lot. It's fine. It is what it is. We keep going, we keep moving. And also, my
Yeah.
stuff is just because it's like hours long of content, and I'm just like having to hype myself up to get into the
Yeah.
editing mood. Because if I'm not, I'm just going to be like, right now, I know this is super easy, but my head is not into it. just do
Oh
something
yeah.
else for a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Well, and it's hard to do what you have to do
Hmm.
when you're trying to do something that you love to do, right?
Right,
So
right,
you
right.
enjoy doing the podcast, getting out there and talking and just chilling.
Hmm.
But those next steps, they're hard. There's a lot that goes into that.
Yeah.
well, that's when, the question comes up is like, what do we want from this content creation? Like when you get to a place where is it going to be just for fun and just the things that I enjoy, or are we trying to get like, to a different level of it? And yeah, I find myself asking that question constantly as I'm, seeing all of the tasks that are on the to-do list. Um, and there's some things on there that I really just don't want to do. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I ultimately want out of this content creating? And yeah, that can help shape it. And I think that's like so important too. Like we've talked about being TTRPG players and dungeon masters and checking in with our parties, but I think that constant like being in this space, checking in with yourself, because as wonderful as these communities can be, the internet is also a hard place, and there's hard parts of these communities as well. So yeah, so having that like really honest check-ins about like what is it that I really enjoy doing, and can I just skip the things that I don't enjoy, or do I need to take a break and unplug from the space for a while?
Hmm.
I Because yeah, like we can't do anything in these creator spaces if we're not taking care of ourselves first.
Oh yeah, for
I'm
sure.
here to say yes, you could quit for a little bit.
It's tough out there. Oh, also
Yeah.
something that I'm working on is this. It's a little
What is that?
Taskmaster. I don't know if it's flipped for y'all, but
Ooh,
we filmed it at Gen Con, and I'm editing it, and then we're gonna. That's the other thing I've been working on. So,
very cool. We
yes,
get a
it's
little
been fun.
sneak peek.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
I have a
that's the sneak
quest
peek.
idea that I'm just starting to work on
Oh
for
yeah,
conventions.
nice, nice, nice.
My problem is not the starting. My
Mm,
problem is too many ideas that come before I've finished any of the other ideas. So I have several ideas or things that are happening in progress. So, like in the case of this show, the Creator
right.
Spotlight, I do this live. I know for me, on a time schedule, I cannot go into the editing booth and do all the things that need to do to tighten everything up and make it shorter.
Mm-hmm.
So they go live and then they go to YouTube
Yeah.
as
Yep.
is. Because,
Yeah.
like Kate said before, it's better to get it out there than to not have it at all. On the flip side of that, if I was doing a podcast that required heavy editing and all of that, that's why you don't see it out there because I
Mm-hmm.
would be editing it for so long before it went out. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like I think this balance that we all have to find, and then we want to play.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, where do we put that into everything else we've been doing? It's crazy.
Well, but I think for
Exactly.
me, it's like finding the people who genuinely enjoy doing the parts that I don't, and being like, awesome, then you can do that and you can help with that. Um, like having someone else doing the Twitch layouts and the graphic design and the social media. And I mean, I just go back to, I've run both Kate the Great Cosplays and Don't Kill My Character by myself for way too long. And so they go through periods of being highly active and then not. And just asking for help with Don't Kill My Character and Kate the Great Cosplays, and the amount of eager, wonderful, talented help that I received, yourself included, Shannon, was so heartwarming and reassuring and humbling and wonderful. Just, oh, there are wonderful people out there who want to help with this. So I think that that's part of it too, is creating together. And yeah, just asking for help. Who'd have thought?
Right. That's a good life lesson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Adrian, do you have anything coming up specifically that you want to let people know about?
Um, Currently, I've had to put a project on hiatus because I put too much on my plate and I was eating and I was just starving myself because of indecision. So currently, just the podcast and then the hint I just gave. Whenever I can edit that
Nice.
into, and then we will do that live, and it'll be really fun. The
Yeah.
reveal, who won, and then we have a golden mic for whoever wins that challenge.
Ooh.
Um, I don't know if you want to use it. We use spray paint, so it could just be purely symbolic. And then, yeah, I think that's all I've got going on currently. I've just been trying to do that, and then some YouTube videos with my brother and his family. So, oh,
Cool.
that's it.
And that
Awesome.
idea, did that spawn from going to conventions?
Uh, which one? The one I had to put on the back burner?
No,
The
the one that
card.
Um,
you're the card, yeah,
Oh, the
with your
card.
golden mic.
No, that spawned because I've been watching Taskmaster a lot.
Ah,
I've gone through almost all their seasons and trying to draw inspiration from them, and it was fun. It was really quick. Um, we had 5 players, and we'll see how it goes and how editing works. So, Taskmaster, most of their stuff is on YouTube for free. So if you just want to look up what I just said, it's not the it's not the Marvel show. It's the British funny haha show.
I love British humor.
Oh yeah, it's so good.
Kate, what have you got coming up
Oh goodness, I
or
pulled up my
going
calendar to
on and
help me
coming
with
up?
this. Yeah.
The
So I mean, talking about having to take breaks and put things on hiatus for our own brain rest. Yeah, my brain needed to breathe. So Shipwrecks took a week off, and then we were scheduled for this week off. But Shipwrecks is a Dungeons and Dragons mini series on my channel. Don't Kill My Character. So we'll be back with that starting again Thursday, September 12th, and then we'll be on every Thursday until October 3rd. And then Superhero Shenanigans, a Mutants and Masterminds game that Shannon is in, and Curly Insane Guy, who's been in the chat, is the game master for, will hopefully, probably, most likely be live Wednesday, September 25th on Don't Kill My Character. So that is super exciting too. And then convention wise, I have New York Comic Con coming up in October, and I have PAX Unplugged in December. So yeah, it's going to be a fun end of the year. There's even more projects beyond that. So keep an eye on my social medias.
lots going on the socials.
Yeah.
Super exciting, he said.
Oh. Mwah.
Is this where we all groan?
No, I love it. I'm here for it.
That's pretty
I think
much
that's
what the
great.
show's going to be like.
I mean, I said for shipwrecks that I would reward inspiration for people making good ship puns and like sea puns, and I don't think it's actually happened yet. Um, I'm sure puns have been made, and maybe I just forgot in the moment because hey, when you're GMing, your brain is very full. Um, but yeah, the first 2 episodes of Shipwrecks and more VODs from Don't Kill My Character are on the YouTube if you want to get caught up before we pop back in with that. And you can jump on Superhero Shenanigans right from the beginning because that hasn't even started yet.
Absolutely. I've
Yeah.
dropped the links in the chat where you can find these two fabulous humans. One more time before we close it out, just remind everybody who you are and where they can find you online.
I'm Adrian Lawrence. I run Dungeons and Degrees with my wonderful co-host Alex, and I'm at panel sometimes, and we talk about confidence, and we will answer your questions. I will be at PAX U, and if I get a yes from them, we'll do it. If not, come up to me. I'll tell you about confidence. I'll be running around. I'll be doing stuff.
Love it. Yeah, definitely hope to connect with you in person at PAX Unplugged. You can find me there too. I'm Kate, aka Kate the Great Cosplays. You can find me online with that handle, and also Don't Kill My Character. I am the owner and producer of that channel, which is where I play TTRPGs and other fun games with my friends. And you can find me on those online spaces by those names and also at lots of conventions.
Awesome. I will vouch for that channel and that Discord. Love it.
Yep. Shannon is a regular. Happy to have
I
you.
am. I play as much as possible. And if you would like to be a guest on the Creator Spotlight or Goose Poop's Creator Coop that we also have going on, and we've got a couple new things happening. Basically, if you want to be on the channel, we have a link. You can go to imaginif.shop and you can find everything you need there. There's also a link on the page in Twitch. We appreciate you hanging out in the chat and watching and viewing and being with us. I appreciate the two of you very much. Thank you so much. And we'll see you all
Of
later.
course. Bye.